I'm sure many of you are familiar with the word neocolonialism. I'm going to share something with you. Ghana's president, Nana Akufo-Addo, has attracted international attention for emphasizing how important it is for Ghana to have a greater degree of sovereignty in its dealings with international partners. Let's discuss how much his impact, critique of aid dependency borrow from the ideas and sentiments of Ghana's first president, Kwame, and his writings in the 60s, 70s, and 70s on neocolonialism. In December, Okufo, a stern indictment of Africa aid dependency on European benefactors during an official visit by French President Emmanuel Macron. To the visible discomfort of Macron, Akufo-Addo remarked that relying on European development assistance has not worked and it will not work. He continued, our responsibility is to chart a path which is about how we can develop our nations ourselves. It is not right for a country like Ghana, 60 years after independence, to still have its health and education budgets being financed on the basis of the generosity of European taxpayers. Nkrumah defined neocolonialism as a situation of infringed and compromised national sovereignty, where foreign interests remain economically and hence politically dominant in strategic decision-making. Nkrumah led the nation to a legal form of independence from Britain in 1957 and yet was toppled by the CIA, by a CIA-sponsored coup in 1966, in no small part due to the publication of his 1965 work condemning neocolonialism in Africa as the last stage of imperialism. All right. So here, it's funny that what this guy is saying, I've been thinking for a while, and I'm sure many of you seen it too. But what happened, it seemed to me that there was a lot of scared cowards who are working in key places. It is on us, it is critical that Africans fix our own issue. It is imperative that we fix our own issue and stop totally relying on Europeans to do so. They can help, sure they can help, and other countries can help. However, we need to grab the bull by the horn and fix our own issue, or else no one will ever respect us. I want to share another reading here by a gentleman called John Broman. Right? This is in regard to tourism. In the article, New Direction in Tourism for Third World Development, author John Broman viewed tourism in the Third World as an extension of neocolonial economic reforms and underdevelopment. This is an extremely negative view of mass tourism, which he backed up by stating examples of how the individual states and countries in the Third World are affected. The main problems with tourism are loss of control over local resources due to foreign dependence, low spread of positive effects outside of tourism enclaves, socioeconomical equality, fluctuation earnings, environmental destructions, and rising alienation among local populations, producing crime, overcrowding, poor infrastructure, and pollution. Broman argued that the reason of the damage, or for the damage, is due to favoring the development of large-scale multinational enterprise. To prevent this from happening, the author suggested the necessity of an increased local involvement, a topic that we'll discuss further. Anyway, let me continue a little bit. The incorporation of a smaller scale, locally owned tourism alternative is proposed to solve many of the aforementioned problems. associated with large-scale foreign-based mass tourism. Money is less likely to be lost due to foreign exchange leakages, and benefits would be in the hands of local population instead of a small group of elites who are currently managing the industry. If these problems associated with tourism can be eliminated, then the economies and quality of life for third world countries can begin to improve. Okay, so that was Broman. Okay, so what I gather from that is this, right? Local people, if you travel to Europe, if you travel to the US, do not neglect your country. Do not wait until it's time to go home to go and say, this is my country, and be proud and get upset from the development you see there. And get upset when you see other folks moving in and taking over, buying your countries. We need to stay invested. We all have been guilty of it across the board. We have to stay invested with the local population and help to rebuild that population. It would be great if summertime a flock of us head to the Caribbean, or in the wintertime as well, flock of us head to the Caribbean, and encourage the government to focus more on us, attract us, have some incentives in place, and we will take our money there and spend it there. Also, let's take good habits there, because there's a lot of derogatory, belligerent behavior that we take back to the Caribbean. I've seen it all the time, where we influence the people back home in a negative way. Let us not corrupt these beautiful countries. Let us not corrupt beautiful Africa. There's already enough corruption in these places for us to only add more to it, right? Because the same things many of us say we don't like about other countries abroad is the same thing we influence back home. So let us not put unnecessary pressure on the government to create something that we don't like. We should try to make the Caribbean, make our home, make Africa a place where our children want to stay. They have a choice to stay there, and a place that people who travel abroad want to revisit and want to spend the rest of their time. Help to develop the education system, and also do it in a way so that our greatest minds are not bribed by other countries, because you know that's what happened. The greatest minds, they get offered great jobs to stay and work for the countries where they go and study to gain their education, right? But anyway, with that said, I hope that we are able to focus more. The thing to take away from this is that we gain our identity, honor the ancestors, celebrate our ancestors, get back to who we are. The local population, do not wait on the government. Work hand in hand, reach across the board, connect with your neighboring countries. And I would advise the government to do the same. Work with each other, create a unity. Do not neglect what is happening in our one country. We need to listen to what our ancestors wrote. Kwame wrote about neocolonialism, and many of us overlooked it, and therefore it is happening today. Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, those guys already told us what to do, what is happening. But what we did, we turned our back on them in order to chase some biscuits from imperialist regime. We can work hand in hand, but we need to ensure that we do not agree to sign our future over, to sign our land over, to sign our resources over to other folks who does not have the same love and respect for you. But then again, many of us do not have love and respect for ourselves, but some do. Okay? Believe in ourselves. We can do it. Last thing, we have to fix our issue. Many times I hear government officials celebrate the fact that they have a new hospital, a new machine, better electric grid. Your nation does. And that is why I am iffy and skeptical about the way the word nation is being thrown around. Because if someone, a rich person, decide to move to your country and spend vast amount of money on electric grid or any other business, and your country start doing better, it doesn't mean that the local people is doing better. It means that the country is doing better. But how does that change the life of the locals? Are we going to constantly, forever keep them at a state of laborers? We must influence them to be entrepreneurs and to own many of this business. When I travel around the world, when I go to Africa, Europe, Hawaii, wherever I go, you see the same folks traveling all over. And the good thing about it is that there are hotels there. Hotels, they are owned by the same people that is made to accommodate them. I do not see hotels owned by Caribbean folks or African people. Even when you go to the Caribbean, even when you go to Africa, the same ancestors of the colonial folks are the ones who own the hotels in these areas, which shows me that neocolonialism is real. And we know it is. So let us stop being ashamed of it. It is not promoting hate to anyone. It is calling out the obvious. We did not start all over again, right? If I take from you and then I all of a sudden say, let us work capitalism, starting from here, I have a much better head start than you. And that's the case that I've seen. And that's the only thing that makes sense to me. But anyway, if anyone have other reasons as to why it is this way, where everywhere you go, people own the hotels, people who are traveling the most end up being the same ancestors of countries that once colonialized this area. If you have other reasons as to why the same countries that ruled over these other smaller countries still have such a political and economical influence, other than the nefarious system or a nefarious system in neocolonialism. If you have other answers to share, then I am open to that. Until then, love your brother, treat each other well, educate ourselves, let's work on ourselves. We must fix us. We have to fix us. If everyone is trying to jump in and say, no, I want to carry that for you, no, we'll say, look, you can support us from over here, but there are certain things that we must do for ourselves. Because this thing we've been doing has not been working. It kept us in a state that we're in, and we want to change that.